Hey loves, hey, it's your girl Shay Cunningham, also known as Slay by Shay. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna dig right in because we got some major tea to spill today. Yes, I'm gonna be sharing with you how and why I chose to pursue becoming a style and image expert. This will be a raw and unfiltered, somewhat of a fireside chat, sis, about the good, the bad, and the ugly experiences that led me down this amazing journey of helping women with their personal image and style. Now, why did I choose this topic for this video, and how the heck is it going to help you? Well, the lessons that I learned along the way have really great parallels to things that I think you can learn to enhance your journey and learn from either my mistakes or the gems that I learned along the way. So if you're ready to hear my 10 lessons that I believe will motivate, empower, and inspire you on your very own style transformation journey, then get ready, get set, let's slay. So we got to start from the start, right? I have to share with you a little bit about how I got started in my professional career, and then that is going to lead us to exactly how I landed on pursuing a full-time career now in being a style and image expert. So first of all, as I've shared before, I'm from the South Side of Chicago, which is a culture that is so rich and so committed to style and fashion. It's not even funny. So I grew up kind of in an environment where dressing your best beautiful was on the menu every day, right? And not only that, but I come from a lineage of women and some really dapper men as well, who really took how they showed up on a daily basis very seriously. And I learned so much from them that really honed my keen eye and my passion for fashion. As I went through school and as a Gen Xer, so I don't know where my Gen Xers are out there, but as a Gen Xer for sure, I followed the path, right? The parent-led path. If you are a Gen Xer, for the most part, your parents were encouraging you to take the path of education and live your best life, but to get that corporate job and go up the ladder, right? And get that corner office with the windows. And for me, that was top order. That's exactly what I did. I went to undergrad school immediately out of high school and went on to get my bachelor's in marketing, and then went on to graduate and start a whole full-blown career in human resources. So again, that was probably par for the course and probably still is. A lot of people go to school, they study things in one area or industry and end up doing something completely different. But I had a really great early career in human resources as I moved from Illinois to Texas, and it was gangbusters. It was going great. But fast forward to 2006, and I became disenchanted with corporate America. There were a lot of things that led to that. Some of you, I'm sure, will probably relate. It included being underappreciated, undervalued, overworked, and the final straw for me was unfairly compensated. And so when that bow broke, it triggered some things on a mental and emotional front for me. And so I found myself in a really dark place. And so much so that I would pull up to my office building where I was working at the time, and I would go to swipe my entry badge and I would just start bawling. I just felt that defeated every day that I walked into that environment. And not because anyone did anything, I think, intentionally to me. That was just my experience from day to day at that particular point. And so the trigger that really changed everything in that moment was I ended up having a panic attack in my office. And I realized in that moment that, working should not have me in a state where I can't find air, right, to breathe. And when that episode took place, I immediately went to the doctor to find out what is wrong with me. Why am I having these types of reactions in my workplace? And, come to find out, I was just carrying too much. There were things that I needed to sort out in terms of my feelings with that environment. And so I needed to process some things, and I needed to work on myself. And doctors do what doctors do. They check all their boxes that they need to check, and they send you off with a prescription for depression medication. I was no different. That was exactly the experience that I had. And I'll never forget the day I sat in the parking lot of that clinic when I was given a prescription, and I cried and I prayed to God that if, Lord, the words specifically were, Lord, would you have me be medicated to work for someone else? And I heard a resounding no. And I didn't have a plan B per se. I was young, educated, well presented. So I knew that finding another job would not be difficult back in that time, but I just had to choose me in that moment to make sure that I could be what I needed to be to every other area of my life. So the next day, after having a really supportive conversation with my husband, I went to my workplace and put in my 2 weeks notice. Didn't have a plan other than I knew I needed to take some time to really process and discover who I was. So that actually leads me to the break and how I discovered being a style and image expert could potentially be for me. So immediately after leaving that job, and by the way, I had never done anything, I guess some people might call that impulsive. I always planned so much in my life up until that moment. And just to give that some resonance, I was about 30 years old when this happened. I was a very responsible adult at 30. I've been out on my own since high school, but I decided that I didn't want my next move to be worse than my first move, right? Which was to follow the beaten path. So I decided to do some soul searching. And with that soul searching game plan, I decided to read a book called Purpose Driven Life. And this book helped me with identifying what my purpose statement was. And when I went through that exercise, I realized that God intends all of us to use our gifts and talents to help others make the world a better place. And that's the basic formula for creating your purpose statement. And that's where I gleaned that utilizing my keen eye for fashion, my ability to help people look and feel better was exactly what I was put here to do. So with that, I'm like, well, how can I do that? And that's when, at that time, I researched being a style and image expert and professional. Now, you have to remember, like 2006, that having a personal stylist or image consultant was not something that everyday women or individuals had. This was something that was reserved for the rich and the famous. But I knew that it was possible to make it accessible to professional executive women and entrepreneurs because I knew that they needed it, right? Just in the career that I had amassed up until that point from human resources, I had met and got to know some amazing women and knew that there was a need for this type of service and support. Now, during this hiatus from corporate America, I was, of course, educating myself and, diving into any resources or information that I could about how to be successful in this industry. But at the same time, I was building a business because I have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. In high school and college, I was doing nails for my friends and my colleagues. I was a Mary Kay consultant. So I was, I've always been a serial entrepreneur and always had a passion to support other like-minded, passionate, purpose-driven entrepreneurs. That's really what led me to focusing on women that are professionals, busy professional women. During this time, I was beating the streets because this is a time frame that I call BSM, before social media. So before social media, when you're an entrepreneur, you're ramping up your business, you only had your bootstraps, right? You could only hit the beaten pavement and get your word out there by getting out to networking events. I was at brunches, I was at conferences, I was at breakfasts, I was at all the things to try to get my name out and to promote my new business, and of course word of mouth and referrals and things of that nature. What I found was within about 9 to 10 months, my reserves were starting to dry out. The leads were coming slow but surely, but the economy was on a downturn. Economy, if you remember 2006 through about 2008, there was a big dip in a recession. So what that meant for me is my target market was getting squeezed, right? Because they were now making career decisions about what they were going to do with their resources, and they were holding on to them tighter, which meant that it was harder for me to penetrate my target market. So I was faced with a fork in the road that said, continue to pursue this career and getting it off the ground, but you're going to have to make some sacrifices and sacrifice your current lifestyle. Or on the other hand, you could go back into corporate America, regain that reliable, dependable income, and still build your business on the side. I went selfishly, now looking back, I went on the latter and I went back into corporate America. So fast forward 2019, I am 2 children later. I am a great career in leadership, being an individual contributor. I've done all the things that I wanted to do in the HR umbrella, all the way to the pinnacle of where I wanted to be, which was training and development. So I had fulfilled all of my desires in the HR industry at this point, at the point of 2019, when I decided to re-embrace my quest to pursue being a style and image expert full-time. Now, before we get into my first lesson, I do want to highlight that when I left my HR career in 2020, I left a lucrative, satisfied, supportive leadership situation. A lot of people, when you hear their stories about leaving corporate and going on their own, starting up their own entrepreneurial venture, that they were running away from something that was more than what they could handle, or they just didn't want to be in anymore. They weren't fulfilled. That wasn't really my situation. My situation was more of that I had put it on the shelf. I had put pursuing this career on the shelf for stability. And now here I am, as stable as I felt like I could get on the track that I was on, and I still wasn't fulfilled. And I really felt that, my sleepless nights at this point, they started in 2018, was God's nudge saying, daughter, you need to get it together. You're still not living fully within your purpose. So that is really what compelled me to move forward with my, I don't even want to call it dream, but what I feel like is my purpose, and for all of whatever this journey had in store for me to come. So just to bring you up to speed to where we are now, in 2018, I started up my business by hiring a business coach, which we're going to talk about the importance of mentors and inspiring people in your life. She helped me replace my income and find sustainable ways to do it, and rinse and repeat those strategies for 18 months. And within 18 months, I was able to leave corporate America with confidence. And that leads up to 2020, which is when I actually put in my notice. After I put in my notice in 2020, my last day was in July of 2020, and I was officially full-time pursuing my style and image business for the second time on August 1st of 2020. Of course, it hasn't always been rainbows and sunshine in this journey. It hasn't always been dug out and depressed either. I've definitely had my full share of ebbs and flows in these last 4.5 years, and I'm sure that there's so many more to come, which is why I decided to do this video to share with you the lessons that I've learned over my entire career, both hybrid as well as full-time as an image and style expert. Lesson 1, reflect on personal growth. Now, just as I was transforming from my 20s to my 40s in my careers, I was not only transforming professionally, but I was also transforming within my style and image journey as well. When I started out, I was in what I would consider a conservative environment where I was supporting a brand that was a high-end brand. So I had to present in a high-end way as well. So we were mostly in suits, dresses, skirts, heels most of the time. And of course, we would have business casual Fridays, yes. And that, obviously, because I come from a culture of dressing, that did not bother me whatsoever. I love dressing up, love to put it on. So that was fine. But there were times when the urban side of me did want to do things a little bit more loose, a little bit more creative. And I did massage that in my early 20s when I was in that environment. Moving on to after I took my hiatus and I went back into corporate America, I did that in what I would consider kind of a hybrid environment where you didn't have to be super ultra conservative, but you did need to represent the client that you were facing on a day-to-day basis. And because in my second role in my career in HR, I had clients, the car wash companies, all the way up to, attorneys' offices and things of that nature. So I had to represent in front of different blue collar, white collar, gray collar type environments. And I needed to mimic that in my style and how I presented myself. So that really taught me a lot about how to ebb and flow my personal authentic style into settings where I necessarily had to conform, but where I needed to be appropriate. My third role was somewhat of a hybrid as well. Half of it was client facing, but the other half of it was working from home. So what I would do is, of course, working from home, I had a much more casual, relaxed attire. But when I was client facing, which was internal clients this time around, I could be more business casual or elevated business professional. It just kind of depended on the situation. So for you, in the lesson of reflecting on personal growth as it relates to your style transformation journey, I would ask for you to go down memory lane, take inventory of where you were before and how you needed to dress and how you needed to present to where you are today. Is it the same? Is it different? Has it evolved? Have you evolved? The biggest question that I would have for you in this instance is, are you showing up as your yesterday self today? And if that is the case, then you need to reassess how you're showing up today and make sure that it's appropriate for how you need to show up today. Lesson number 2 is to identify your key challenges. Now, for me in my journey from corporate America to what I do full-time today and everything in between, those challenges that presented themselves from a style perspective was, how do I show up and be taken seriously and be deemed as professional in my authentic self? You know, there's a part of me, and even as I identify my style today, urban chic sass, that loves to wear streetwear, right? Like to show those edgy elements of coming from the south side of Chicago and liking to have that kind of edge to my look and my vibe. And knowing the delicate balance of presenting in a way that's appropriate for your environment and still being true to who you are, that was the key challenge for me. With that challenge, what I vowed to myself is that I was not going to code switch. I was going to do the harder thing than code switching, which is to be authentic to who I am at all times so that I'm never mistaken for being fake or phony or misrepresenting myself or doing it in a way that is inauthentic. How did I do that and still maintain? You know what? I put forward my authentic self while still making sure that I operated in excellence. For me, it meant to make sure that my work and my impact spoke louder than my style. And with that, I was able to create this beautiful balance of appreciation for my unique authenticity, as well as appreciation for the hard work and dedication that I put into my work every single day. For you in your personal style transformation journey, I would say to write down 1 to 2 things that you see as challenges and in defining and representing your style in an authentic way, and suggest 2 to 3 things that you can do to overcome those challenges. Number 3, the power of authenticity. So even though we just talked about how challenging it can be in a work environment where perhaps you are expected to show up and present in a way that is counter to how you really are on the inside and like to represent, it's still so important to be authentic, mainly because when you are true to who you are, which is the definition of authenticity, then you show up as your best self. It's really important to highlight that as you're on your style transformation journey, that you understand that style is all about authenticity and self-expression. And if you are thwarting that with trying to fit in or trying to run and keep up with the trends and external expectations, that you are going to fall short of greater confidence and satisfaction. I'll give you a brief story about how this showed up for me. When I was still corporate America, I had a leadership presentation to do, and I'm talking C-suite level leaders I had to present to. I had to persuade them to believe in a concept that they had never seen or heard about, as well as make a financial commitment to. So that was a pretty hefty presentation and what I would call totally high stakes. What I found is that the confidence that I brought into the room, because I was fully 10 toes down, authentic in how I showed up and presented myself, it won over the crowd. And not only that, it allowed me to speak fluidly, confidently, with zeal and zest, because I wasn't distracted with pulling and tugging on my clothes, or whether they liked what I was wearing, or whether it was appropriate, or whether, they were going to be judging me throughout the entire presentation. I didn't give that any energy. You know why? Because I knew that I was authentic to me. After the presentation, I received, at that time they were doing awards online, and I received one of the most glowing accolades that I ever did in my entire career at that company. And it's all due because I know that that particular day, I really dialed completely into my true authentic self and style for that presentation. I'm going to show you up here exactly what I wore for that presentation. It was not what you would consider your typical boardroom attire, but it did make a statement, and it made it in such a rich and important way. For For you on your personal style transformation journey, I would say to lean into at least one or two unique characteristics about yourself that you can express at any given point. No need to code switch, and really find out what that filter is so that you can stay consistent and gain that inspired confidence that is going to make you rock the room. And I've talked about this before. It's really your slay statement, knowing exactly how you need to show up and what type of expression, self-expression you need to exude. Lesson number 4, the role of experimentation. It is so important for you to be a little experimental and try different colors, different styles, different silhouettes to see what works for you. And not everything is going to work for you forever. You may go through seasons in life where certain things work for you, you're vibing with it and it makes you feel amazing. And then 10 years later, you can't stand that. And that's okay, because in fact, that's what we all should be doing. We should be evolving and elevating with each day. So experimenting can give you that little boost of fire that's needed. I'll give you a quick example for me. Later in my career in corporate America, I get bored. Okay, I get bored with my hair. I get bored with too many things looking the same way. And I need to just, do something that excites me with my makeup, with my hair, with different things. And I'm talking about style, color, all of that. I've always experimented with different styles, cuts, colors when it comes to every part of my image from head to toe. And in this particular season, I was experimenting with color on my hair, and I colored my hair. I remember I said I was working from home for a while there. I was working from home 7 years before COVID. So go figure, right? So I really was sitting in a pretty cush situation. So I could experiment even more in that type of environment, because when I had to show up for certain events, do training, fly around, do those things, I could, if I needed to, I could always switch it up. But in this particular instance, I had colored my hair purple. And at this time, I had never seen anybody have any other color hair but blonde, brunette, red, right? But not even the red color. I had tried that earlier in my career and actually was teased a little bit, but I didn't take offense to it, because again, it was authentic to me and it was self-expression that I stood in 10 toes down. But this time I went purple, and that was I think that would have been considered risque by then. But things were changing. This had to be, 2016, somewhere in there. 2017. And I remember I had a new VP at the time, and I was saying to myself, okay, I knew I had to fly in for a big team event and my VP was going to be there. So I'm getting ready to pack and do all of that good stuff. I had already colored my hair purple. It had been purple probably for months at this point. And I call up my bestie and I'm like, girl, what do I do? Do I keep my hair purple, or do I go ahead and dye it another color? And when I come back, go back to the purple? Do I wear a protective style, cover up the purple? Like what? What do you think, right? And mind you, this was the first time I've ever in my professional career contemplated or even thought to compromise my authentic self and how I need to self-express through style. And my girlfriend, she freed me. She was like, what? Are you crazy? She was like, they're gonna expect you to bring the fire. You always bring the heat. And you need to go with your purple hair. And I don't know why your VP would have a problem with it. You're an amazing professional. You have so much to offer to the organization and have offered over all of these years. She was like, girl, wear your purple hair. So I did, and I'll never forget, I get there and I'm kind of, not really, I'm like 8 toes down, not 10, okay, with my confidence, but I still wore it, I rocked it. And as we were leaving the conference room on the first day, my VP walks up next to me and she grabs me by the arm and she says, hey, by the way, I've been meaning to tell you all day, you rocking that hair. And oh my gosh, it felt so good to be appreciated. It felt so good to not be judged by my self-expression. And from that moment on, you can only imagine how much more inclusive I felt in that environment. And it does and it should get to the point as we as women of a certain age should not be compromising who we are as individuals to conform to an environment. If the environment is not conducive and supportive of who we are and how we need to self-express, then it's just probably not the best fit for not just our physical appearance, but for our the emotional and the psychological support that we need to be our best selves in a corporate setting. With that, it made me even more confident to grow my locks that I had at one time. I've tried since then different colors, which now as a style and image expert, I am known, right? It's now a part of my trademark look to wear different colors, different edgy styles. At one time I was wearing parts a lot. That's now a part of my brand. And because I'm able to thrive in a business and in my own business and show up fully how I need to show up to be my best self, there's nothing like that. So for you, I would take this lesson and create a picture diary of you experimenting different looks. Maybe it's mixing patterns, or maybe it's exploring different color combinations, or maybe it is trying a new hairstyle or makeup technique. Whatever it is, experiment and experiment freely so that you can see how many different ways you can evolve in your self-expression to be and live in your style truth. Lesson number 5, the influence of mentors and inspirations. Now, for me, I would love to talk about the mentorship that I received as I went on to pursue my style and image profession. As I mentioned earlier, did hire a business coach to help me blueprint exactly how I needed to go about ramping up my business, creating credibility in the marketplace, and how to attract my soul clients to me so that I could start doing this work and fulfilling my purpose. So she was able to do that. And because this is now ASM, which is after social media, she had a blueprint that was already tried and true. So she gave me step by step, hey, this is how you need to present on social media. Here are the platforms that are going to be great for you based on your avatar, your ideal client. Here are the things that you need to do, how you need to show up consistently, blah, 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 right? Like she gave me the whole thing and I followed it down to the T, okay? Because I needed to have that success so that I can move on with pursuing this full time. So mentors and inspiration are amazing, and she was always there for me, and she told me the good, the bad, and the ugly so that I could be best prepared to be successful. Now, the story, though, that I want to tell you that I learned the most from in terms of getting feedback and not necessarily liking it, but it stretching me and making me a better person was I had actually met through my business coach another branding guru, and she had lots of access to some amazing women who could be potential clients of mine, and she worked with professional powerhouse women who are rebranding their businesses and need to get their style together, their personal branding, their visual branding. And she wanted to interview me and see if I would be a good fit to collaborate with on photo shoots and things of that nature. Well, fast forward, I got that interview. I was so prepared and so excited to present my work, and I showed her what I had and I answered all her questions, and I thought I thought I was ultimately prepared for that conversation. At the end of that conversation, she was like, okay. Yeah, you're not ready. I was like, what now? She was like, yeah, I see the potential, but yeah, for the clients that I work with, I don't feel like you're ready. And I said, well, can you give me some, more feedback? Let me know what areas you feel like I'm not ready in. And she was like, well, I really don't have a good sense of your work because the examples of your work that you're showing me are selfies of your clients in their boudoirs or in their closets. And I need to know that if I put you on a job with one of my power player clients, that you're going to be able to present them at the level of excellence that I'm used to seeing in professional photo shoots. And I was like, aha. So what I learned from that was that I needed to step up my game in terms of client portfolio and show my work in the best possible way. So from that point on, every client that I worked with, if I worked with them at a VIP level, we always had a professional photo shoot done. And that was what helped me elevate my perspective, elevate exactly how I envisioned and executed on transforming my clients' visual brands. So it helped me even more than I'm sure that particular inspiring coach will ever know. I mean, I told her years later, because by the way, she called me, okay? So this is a testament for showing up and being consistent. She called me 2 years later and asked me to come into her group coaching program to talk about personal style and image. So it all came full circle, but what I had to learn from that is you have to be open, you have to listen, and even if it's not what you want to hear, you have to find a way to see what the lesson is so that you can elevate and be better. Instead of getting in your feelings and being defensive and rah-rah back, like, no, take the feedback for what it is. Don't always assume that somebody is hating on you. They may be the best secret to you flipping and elevating your situation to something even more powerful than you ever imagined. So for you, for this lesson in your journey, I would say to focus on a slay crush. I've talked about this before. This is someone who, when you see them and how they exude their personal authentic style, you're like, yes, hunty, that's it. Like, you are moved by how amazing and confident they show up. When you have a slay crush like that, you should study them. See what it is that they do. How do they, stay so in the pocket on their self-expression, and see what you can glean and learn from that as well. All right, sis. So listen, that is the first 5 of the 10 lessons that you're going to get. This is just part 1 of lessons that I learned in my pursuit to become a style and image expert that you can glean into your style and image transformation journey. When we come back next time, I'm going to finish out with the last 5 lessons, so please be on the lookout. In the meantime, go ahead, like, share, comment below on what you thought about the first 5 lessons, which lessons really resonated with you, and which of them are you going to take my challenge and actually do the things that I said that you should incorporate into your journey. We should be using these things to help direct us and set our slay goals for the next year. So until then, you know it's good. I want you to always choose love and slay all day. Back to my and place of my, I would pull up to my style transformation. No, I would say that you should write down 1 to 2, 3. No.